Welcome in. Howdy do. Excuse me. You have the High Noon Rant with me, Pugs Moran. I apologize. It's as I said yesterday, we've got a sick house going on here. So I'm going to talk like this today. It's going to be a little different. It's going to be a little weird, but we're going to try and get through it. My kid's been sick since Christmas Eve. Not sick, just like head cold and coughing and all this. No fever. I mean, he's got energy. But then his parental units, his mom and his stepfather, they're also sick. So he's here, and he's going to stay here until everybody is well. And that's great. Well, I don't love that everybody's sick, but hey, extra time, perfect, awesome, always welcome. But here's the problem: he's made me sick now, so I sound like this, and that isn't good. But we're going to muscle through because we do this show. Hi, April. April caught me. I made a mistake earlier this morning. I was trying to break news and I was very confused, and she caught me. There was if you follow me on my socials, Pugs Moran, you know that I am a slave to the. Hold on. Sorry, I'm a slave to the police scanner. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll fix it. Hold on. Gotta do this. And I was awoken this morning at about 8:15 with an alert out of Dallas County. And I was very interested. I'm like, what is going on here? And it says Dallas County. And then it listed the name of a high school. And so I just Googled that. My first move is to always go to Google, take the information that I have and Google it. And it came up a school in Carrollton. So then I go over to the police scanner, right? And I check Carrollton to see what they're saying, not Dallas County, even though that's where the alert came from. I check Carrollton. And there was an incident right in front of a high school in Carrollton that had the same name in the same county as
7152. Your 51 is going to be Myers.
As something more tragic that was occurring at the very same time in Iowa. So I posted that, and it was only up for like 3 minutes, and then they went, "Oh wait, no, it's the wrong school." But when you post things incorrectly and then you immediately take them down, you hope that nobody saw it. But April, that's my girl. April saw it, and I'm like, "Oh damn!" I didn't get it deleted quick enough. But so that's a big story that's happening right now. There's a school shooting happening in Dallas County. In Iowa, Perry High School, about 20 miles northwest, they say, of Des Moines. I'm not familiar with that area, but we do have Jeff Ballard. Jeff Ballard's in the area, so maybe he could fill us in on more details. We'll get to it. It's been going on since 8:30 this morning, and it's another school shooting. I hate to be dismissive of it, and I certainly will fight every. Slave to the scanner. What are you doing to me here? Can't make those noises and not have an announcement. Say something.
Bill for Engine 1, assist EMS with a difficulty breathing. 126 Astor Court.
Okay.
126 Astor Court off of.
All right, so what we're listening. Dragon, move. I don't want to play a game. Oh, now I'm in hell. Now I'm playing a game that I didn't want to play because it's a pop-up. We were listening to the Goldsboro police scanner because just before, as I was getting ready to start the show, another alert came through of another shooting in Goldsboro. I didn't get much more information than that. I don't know where Goldsboro is. I was going to take a moment to look it up, but we just heard there's not a whole lot of activity going on the scanner there, so I don't know if there's anything to report of significance. The Iowa situation seems to be the big one. And that's what we do here. We cover breaking news. We cover trends, headlines, whatever it is that is happening in the moment as we do this stream, the day of. We do it. I call it the High Noon Rant. It's a, almost 2 hour, sometimes over 2 hours, sometimes less. I can't make promises. Stream of consciousness rant by me on all of the events of the day. I wake up early and I compile a list of the top headlines, the top stories, and then we just chop it up for a couple hours. We talk about it. We do talk radio the way I think talk radio should sound, without any obvious political angle or without any sort of biases that are just, baked in, as they say, because of the way we vote or because of the color that we choose. I don't play that game. I hate that. I love current events talk. I love real current events talk. No bullshit. Calling people out and having a nice little scrum sometimes if you disagree. But I don't like the politics of it all. I don't like when people just, I don't care. You shouldn't care. And I think that most of us don't care. And that's what we do here on the High Noon Rant. 2 hours of me just ranting non-politically about all the day's events, all the news. Did you know that you can talk about the news without having to inject politics? You can. You really can. We used to do it all the time. We don't do it anymore. So that's what this show is. I would like to announce, there you go, Carlos. Thank you, Carlos. This kind of talk radio is not a thing. It's not a thing, but we do it here, and we do it by accepting tips, by requesting tips, by downright begging for tips at times. The biggest tip of the day gets to be the executive producer of the next day's show. So I'd like to thank Carlos, who came in with the biggest tip of the day. I'd also like to thank Frankie and somebody, I love the dudes who tip like $1 or $2 every day. That's really helpful. That goes a long way. I do appreciate that. So I'd also like to thank Terry and Frankie. But Carlos dropped the biggest tip of the day yesterday. So Carlos gets to be the man. Thank you, Carlos. Now, where are we in our count? I said by the end of day Friday, we started out, I think it was $300 or something. I don't know. It's such an awful thing. I hate the money of this. This is why I need to be really successful. Like Tariq Hill successful. And we'll talk about this. Tariq Hill's got all of his stuff wired up because he's got accountants and he's got, dudes doing his house burned down yesterday, as a matter of fact. We'll talk about it coming up here. That's one of the stories we're going to do. His house burnt down. And I'm like, that's a 22-year-old kid with like a $6.5 million house. And I'm like, I wonder if he's like insured properly. Because me at 22, I would not have been insured properly. He was, because I read a follow-up on that. That's what I need. I need that level of success because I can't do anything on my own. And to that end, we do this show based upon your contributions. And that's how we run. And I should have a better business model than that, but I don't. And it's worked for 2.5 years. We'll see how much longer it lasts. But as I said, we were trying to raise about $300 this week. We are down to 215, something like that, 217, something like that. So we're making progress. I appreciate y'all for helping out. And that will be the last I will do of a big evangelical push for this kind of thing. Appreciate you. I will, however, leave the link up just in case you're so inclined that you're like, you know what? I like this. And you're going to drop a little something. I don't count on it, but I certainly do appreciate it. All right. Here's how the show works. 4 quarters. I explain it this way. We do the show in 4 separate quarters. The first quarter is a segment we call Erstwhile on This Day. It's a look back at all the events that have helped shape this day. We look for patterns and we look for rhythms. And let me tell you, folks, quarter 1 today is going to reveal some patterns. It's going to reveal some things that seems to occur on this day. So be on the lookout. I'll tell you what that is in quarter 1. Quarter 2, we do birthdays. People born on this day. Celebrities. I cherry pick the ones we're interested in. And we just look at them. And I go, okay, this person died. Are they cool? That's really the up and down of that whole segment. Third quarter is the deads. This is where we take people who passed away on this day. It's a little bit more involved, a little bit more interesting. We get to sit in judgment. We take the people who died, we look at their life's resume, and then based upon our own understanding of Christian Judeo values and the prerequisite that one is required to meet before getting entrance into heaven or hell, we decide where they went. This person died on this day, where'd they go? So that's quarter 1, quarter 2, and quarter 3. Quarter 4 is the hot topics, the trends, the headlines, all the stuff that we're going to chop it up about, okay? So if you got it, you can look at it that way. 4 quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's get started. It is the High Noon Show for January 4th, year of our Lord, 2024. I put 2023. I did in my little script here. I mean, it's not a script, it's just bullet points, but we've been doing this for 2.5 years. I've got like hundreds and hundreds of Word documents of all the day's events from every single day. It's like I'm publishing a newspaper, basically. And I'm holding on to it in my Google Drive because, it's like my papers. Maybe one day they'll be donated to a university. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe after we all destroy ourselves, maybe my laptop is the one laptop that the new founding alien civilization uncovers, and they open up my notes from the high. Okay, now I know. But what if my notes now become the new Bible? You don't know. You can't say that's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, it probably has happened because, as we all know, with an ever-expanding universe, every possibility is a possibility and will eventually occur. All right, let's move on. January 4th is the 4th day of the year. 363. I'm on my allergy pills. I told you I'm sick. The kid's sick. The kid is in the other room. The kid's sleeping. All right, kid slept till 11. Woke up, ate nothing, and we were right back to bed. I didn't know he's in bed again. So bear with me today because I'm going to try and be a little bit more quiet. Although, you can't guarantee that because I am an explosive individual. Let's see. Let's do some births. Let's get started here with No, it's erstwhile on this day. I'm sorry. Hold up. Yeah, there we go. My God, I just labeled it wrong, so I got confused. Again, I'm dizzy today. Erstwhile on this day. These are events that have happened on this day throughout history. They help us understand what this day is represented. As I say, we do this segment because we look for rhythms. We look for patterns. Why? Because it's an unpredictable world and darkness befalls us at every turn. Potentially. We like to know. How do we hedge our bets? What's today about? Is today an earthquake today? Is today a day where earthquakes have occurred? We found that out yesterday. This seems to be earthquake season. Plane crashes. Is this a day I shouldn't get in a plane? Do planes weirdly seem to crash on this day throughout history? There's one of them, their rhythms today that's pretty freaky. On this day, let's begin. Erstwhile on this day in 1896, Utah is admitted as the 45th state of these here United States. As we said yesterday when we welcomed Alaska to the party, Alaska, you just need to sit there and be pretty. Just sit there and be pretty. We don't need much out of you, Alaska. Same for Utah. Alaska, though, you know what Alaska is? Alaska is like the hot girl who's a bartender and she's got a tramp stamp and she's really attractive and all that stuff. But she's like Alaskan. She's like a little bit more rough around the edges and all that kind of stuff. Utah is the pretty girl who's like, yeah, I think of like Marie Osmond, just like really good. She works at the church. She volunteers. She's been married since she was 18 to like a guy that's 40 and that kind of thing. Pretty though, real pretty, ridiculously pretty. Utah and Alaska, ridiculously pretty. Welcome to the party, Utah. You're the 45th state on this day in 1896. On this day, erstwhile in 1903, Topsy, the elephant, is electrocuted by owners of Luna Park, Coney Island. The Edison Film Company records the film Electrocuting an Elephant. Okay, so we know about this story. By the way, this is the way history puts it out there. They put entirely the blame, as far as this headline goes, entirely the blame for the electrocution of Topsy the elephant, which is just awful. You think people are bad today? Although, yeah, I bet they would. Today, if somebody, like, it's not legal. Like, you obviously couldn't do this today. But if, like, somebody went, I got a business idea. I'm going to rent a parking lot. I'm going to bring an elephant in the middle of the parking lot. And then I'm going to sell tickets for people to watch me kill it. Because that's what happened here. People bought tickets to go watch people kill an elephant. So my question is, would people still come out and yeah, they would. Yeah, they would. You're damn right they would. Humans will $5. What are you going to kill that thing? Really? Yeah. They still would. Although you can't today because now we have safety nets for such behavior. It is repugnant behavior. It is just from a human standpoint. And the people at Luna Park took the blame for this. It's like, all right, so again, this is how it's worded. Topsy, an elephant, is electrocuted by owners of Luna Park, Coney Island. The Edison Film Company records the film Electrocuting an Elephant. Okay, they did it at Luna Park. This was Edison's idea. Edison wanted to electrocute a giant elephant to promote the idea of his electric machine. or whatever the hell it was. But he's being absolved of almost all culpability here. He's just, they were just there filming it. No, they weren't. This was a stunt. Now the Luna Park people may have been involved, but oh my God. Was there a meeting where just people sat around a table and went, let's kill a giant elephant in front of children? Yeah, the world. I don't think it's all that much better. As I said, I think people would still buy tickets if they could to watch people kill an elephant. I think we'd be shocked at the amount of people who the next day went, last night, me and the girl, we went and watched an elephant be killed in the parking lot of Target. I think people would do that. But then again, I don't have much faith in us. I think that I think that ship has sailed. Moving on, Luna 1 on this day in 1959, becomes the first spacecraft to reach the vicinity of the moon. Luna 1. How awesome is that, right? Wasn't ours. It was Russian. Luna 1 is is part of the Soviet Luna program. So get this. 1959, they were already in the moon's orbit. 1959, we were like spam in a can still. We were trying to get Gus Grissom and Alan Shepard off the launch pad successfully. And they were already in lunar orbit. They couldn't land, though. That's what we did. That's what we figured that part out. 10 years they were in lunar orbit before us, and we still won the space race. All right, moving on. Luna 1 on this day, the Russians. They put it up there. On this day okay, here's one we need to put a note in, okay? Check this out. On this day in 1987, the Maryland train disaster. An Amtrak train en route to Boston from Washington, D.C. collides with a Conrail train in Chase, Maryland, killing 16 people, injuring over 100 others. 1987, the Maryland train collision. On this day in 1990, erstwhile, in Pakistan, the nation's deadliest train collision. An overloaded passenger train collides with an empty freight train, resulting in 307 deaths and 700 injuries. On this day in 1987, Maryland's worst train disaster. On this day in 1990, Pakistan's worst train disaster. On this day in 2000, a Norwegian passenger train departing from Trondheim collides with another local inbound train. 19 people are killed, 68 injured in the accident. See, that's why we do this segment. We look for patterns. What did you learn from this show? Don't get on a train today. Just don't get on a train today. It's just the likelihood is not great. But isn't that weird? See, on this very day, what is that? Different parts of the world, so it's not like weather. It's not like, in January, the tracks get icy. No, happened in Maryland, happened in Pakistan. Ain't got ice on the tracks in Pakistan. What else do we have? Let's see. On this day in 1999, former professional wrestler Jesse the Body Ventura is sworn in as governor of Minnesota. Huh? That was the start of some weirdness. All of a sudden, now we got, I don't go into it, but now we got anybody. Now you don't even have to be famous. Like if you were like non-connected to politics, like the first wave was you had to be famous for something else. Like people had to know you. So you got your Jesse the Body Venturas, you got your Arnold Schwarzeneggers, stuff like that. Anyway, you got your Trumps, stuff like that. People who were known already as something other than a politician. Now it's like, now you don't even have to be any. Now, not only do you have to not only is it okay to have no legal experience or no political experience, but you can also now just be a nobody. And by nobody, I don't mean like, there's somebody's no. What I mean is an unfamous person who becomes famous. Your Lorena Boberts, your Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes, these people coming out of nowhere. Is it a good thing? I don't know. It seems like I said yesterday, when you don't know how to do things and you're a little arrogant, and people who run for office are a little bit arrogant, they think that, they've got the answers. So there's that. So when you don't know a lot and you're arrogant, it leads to some ignorance. All right, let's move on. Let's do some births. These are the people who were born. These are the people who were born. They say it's their birthday, and who are we to judge? Born on this day in 1930. Is he cool or not? Don Shula. American football player and coach. Tell you, the man runs an overrated steakhouse. I'll give you that much. What do I know about Don Shula, head coach of the Miami team that went undefeated in 72? Okay. Was he great? Yeah, I guess, growing as a little kid growing up, Don Shula was like, Don Shula is the greatest coach of all time. Don Shula or Tom Landry. It was that. It was Don Shula, Tom Landry, Weeb Eubank, George Halas, Vince Lombardi. Those were the names. And they were all like, the greatest football coaches of all time. I don't know if that's the case. Like, where does Don Shula still rank? Because Don Shula used to rank like, he's easily a top 3 coach of all time. He's a genius. That's where Don Shula ranked, or at least the way people talked about him. He ain't better than Belichick. He ain't better than Walsh. I mean, there are a whole bunch of coaches that came after Shula that I think are better than Shula. I don't know. Anyway, and an overrated steakhouse. He retired from football, and he opened steakhouses around the country, and they were expensive because they bear his name. It's very just mid-tier steakhouse. But they always acted like it wasn't. Like, this is a really good. It's like, is it though? Have you ever been to Bob's? You ever been to Three Forks? I don't know. All right, moving on. Born on this day in 1937, Diane Cannon, American actress, director, producer, and screenwriter. She's still alive. I don't know that she's still going to Laker games. She's the original Gilf, right? Like 65-year-old Diane Cannon sitting courtside at Laker games cheering on Kobe and Shaq in the late 90s. She was like really old, but like still like really hot. And like the camera used to hang on her. They used to hang on her and Jack Nicholson. Because I think the joke was that Jack Nicholson's actually younger than her or something. And she looks like she's too young for him. Anyway, Diane Cannon, happy birthday. Born on this day in 1937. Born on this day in 1960. How you feeling? How you feeling?
Is that one for me?
Yeah, talking to you.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. All right. There he goes. The kid just got up and he's fine. Born on this day in 1960, Michael Stipe, American singer, songwriter, producer, lead singer of REM. Love REM. Love Michael Stipe. What a gentle little flower. He is. He seems really broken and just really like he walking on eggshells around everybody. Michael Stipe. Yeah, he don't hurt nobody. He's just a weird like drama kid. He's got some thoughts, but he doesn't really want to, shove them down your throat, which is good. Sings weird, acts spazzy on stage. All of that rolled into one of the great frontmen in my lifetime. I love Michael Stipe. Love REM. Born on this day in 1960. Born on this day in 1963. How about Dave Foley? Here's another one I love. One of the original Kids in the Hall, Dave Foley. He's never gone on to be a star, but man, oh man, is he a highly respected, well-regarded, working character actor. He's great in everything. Most notably, he's currently Dave Foley. He's currently co-starring a major role, a great character role for him in Fargo on FX. He plays the one-eyed attorney for a billionaire lady played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. And Dave Foley plays her like sort of henchman attorney who's fixer, if you will, her Michael Cohn. But he's got one eye. He's a very interesting guy. Dave Foley, happy birthday. Very funny actor. Born on this day in 1963. Born on this day in 1980. Here's a girl whose name you may not know, or maybe you do. I think you should. I think she's awesome. She just makes me laugh. She's one of few people who, I say this a lot, these people who have so established their comedy credibility with me that all they need to do is walk into a scene. All they need to do is be seen entering and I will already start to giggle. Well, our birthday girl today, born on this day in 1980, is one of them. You should get to know Darcy Carden. Darcy Carden is the star of 2 of the best 30-minute comedy offerings of the last 10 years. Well, I don't know if she's the star, but she certainly plays pivotal roles, interesting roles, scene-stealing roles, as she does in everything. Darcy Carden. Did you watch The Good Place? She was Janice. She was Janice the robot, the AI, the thing that would just pop into a scene and like Jeannie would from I Dream of Jeannie, and she could answer any question. She was hysterical. She was tremendous in that role. Darcy Carden. Also Barry. She was in the HBO show Barry. She played one of the main acting class students. He Barry, the premise was that he was a hitman who wanted to stop being a hitman, so he joined an acting class and suddenly became friends with all these weird theater kids, even though he's a hitman who's still doing jobs on the side while also doing improv exercises. It was very funny. If you haven't seen Barry, you should. It's great. Darcy Carden, our birthday girl, was also in that. Love her. Started out her career as Seth Meyers' nanny. Yeah, she was Seth Meyers' nanny. Apparently, she worked for a nanny service, and Seth Meyers needed a nanny, and he hired Darcy Carden, and he was like, man, you're funny. There's a really cool YouTube video where she's on the Seth Meyers show, and they're talking about how she used to be his nanny, and about how he's like, yeah. Like, I always knew you weren't going to be a nanny for long. You had something, kid. Moving on, Darcy Carden, happy birthday. Born on this day in 1980, a name you should know. Born on this day in 1994. How about this big old truck of a running back? Derrick Henry, ladies and gentlemen, Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry, born on this day in 1994. So what does that make him? It makes him 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 years old. Happy 30. Up. I had to do the math. It's 1994. It just became 2024, and I had to do the math. Oh, my God. That's American public schools for you. Of course, 30 years. He was born 30 years. It's his 30th birthday, 94 to 2024. It's pretty easy. Born on this day in 2004. Let me see how old he is. He's 20. See, I didn't have to do the math for the birthday boy. A big drink of water. Victor Wembanyama. Let me try that again. Victor Wembanyama. See, the first time I said Victor Wembanyama. That's not right. It's Victor Wembanyama. Mama. That's how it is. He's big. Generational. First overall pick in the NBA draft. He came out in the same year as there's another guy, the Victor Wembanyama of hockey, as they like to try and make these two. Connor Bedard, who was the number 1 overall pick in the NHL draft. And these two guys got together. Sports Illustrated got Victor Wembanyama and Connor Bedard together and like did a photo shoot of them hanging out. Connor Bedard is like a 18-year-old, 5 foot. It's just funny. It's just funny to see him. They exchanged jerseys. And literally Victor Wembanyama's Spurs jersey on hockey player Connor Bedard is like a sleeping bag. He's holding it up. Anyway, happy birthday to you, 20-year-old Victor Wembanyama. Looking forward to some exciting basketball in the future. All right, there you have it. That's quarter 1 and quarter 2 in the books. Now let's do the deads. This is where we take a look at people who have passed away on this day, and we decide, are they in heaven or are they in hell? Let's start off. Dead on this day in 1877, Cornelius Vanderbilt. Oh, I don't even have to get it all out. Kidding me? You got a name like Cornelius Vanderbilt? You sound like a villain in a Christmas movie. There was no way you're getting into heaven. You are going to hell, Cornelius Vanderbilt. Dead on this day in 1986, preemptively putting him in because I love this dude. Oh, the rock and roll game. The rock and roll game steals the angels, doesn't it? There's just not a place for him here. There's just a place. Phil Lynott died on this day. I love Phil Lynott. Who's Phil Lynott? Phil Lynott is the lead singer of Thin Lizzy. The boys are back in town. The boys are... Tonight there's gonna be a jailbreak. I love Thin Lizzy. Thin Lizzy is badass. Thin Lizzy is another one of these groups that until I was like in my 30s, I had never paid any attention to them, because growing up and the kind of music that I was, into and the people that I hung around with, Thin Lizzy was just disposable, stupid. Thin Lizzy was like, who are some other groups? Thin Lizzy was like Skynyrd. Skynyrd was also seen this way, and I'm totally wrong about it. Pink Floyd was also, oh, dude, Floyd, bunch of stupid stoner. Floyd, I was totally wrong about Floyd. Allman Brothers, totally wrong about the Allman Brothers. Not to mention being totally wrong about everybody from Billy Joel, who is a genius, to Elton John, who was seen as corny by my generation. You get out of here. But we're talking about Thin Lizzy. Thin Lizzy was an amazing hard rock band. I mean, they could jam. And here's the thing. This is where it's different. And this is why it took me into my 30s to actually let's take, for instance, their biggest hit stateside. They had a whole bunch of hits all over Europe and all that kind of stuff. But their biggest hit stateside was The Boys Are Back in Town. Now, I don't know if at 10 years old or 9 years old when I'm hearing this song, I don't know if I was listening to the lyrics or paying attention to the story that was being told. I think it was just, man, teenagers who smoke cigarettes listen to that music. You know what I mean? It was just like not music that I was into. So it took me a while to actually realize that Phil Lynott is freaking the Irish Bruce Springsteen. This guy is amazing. His stories, the way he writes, the perspective that he writes from, working class Irish. Okay, so here's the other thing about Phil Lynott, which is pretty cool. That nobody ever noticed it. It's not that they didn't notice. It's like it wasn't a deal. Thin Lizzy was an Irish rock band with a black lead singer. Phil Lynott's a black guy. Phil Lynott, yeah, he's born or raised in Dublin and all that, and that's where he lived, and he's Irish, but he's a black guy. And he sang from this perspective of like sort of the underdog and, the working class. It was very Springsteen. You look at the way he writes, you look at the lyrics to Jailbreak, you look at the lyrics to, just look at the most popular songs. Anyway, Phil Lynott, he was fantastic. And that band was fantastic. Thin Lizzy, he died on this day in 1986. I'm putting him in heaven because heroin. Yeah, heroin. I just really like him. By the way, years and years ago, you know what triggered me to take Thin Lizzy a little bit more seriously and listen to them? There is a VH1 Behind the Music on Thin Lizzy from probably 25, 26 years ago now. It is eye-opening. It is really good. If you don't know anything about this band, I would suggest go to YouTube and see if you can find that, because I know that all the Behind the Musics are on YouTube. The Thin Lizzy one is particularly good, particularly interesting. Just about what was lost and how you squander life and how, anyway. Moving on, I'm putting him in heaven. Dead on this day in 1999, Iron Eyes Cody. He's the crying Indian. He took all kinds of, he was a Native American in every movie. Iron Eyes Cody. He's the dude that was crying when, you know that PSA, that public service announcement from the 70s where people driving down the road, like some rural, not even rural. They were like in the middle of like, the Badlands or something, and they're roaring down a highway. And then you see them throw their trash bags out the window. Like, you remember people used to do that? People used to do that. That was a thing. You guys, my son would be appalled. If I was driving in my car down the road in 2024 and we took a Burger King bag or something and went, "You done with that?" and rolled the window and just tossed it, my son would be absolutely appalled. But I'm telling you, at 5 years old, everybody did that shit. Everybody, that's, hey, we've evolved. I think it's better that we're not just chucking our shit out the window. You know what else was gross? You know what I always hated? I hated people who smoked, who used the world as their ashtray. Like just chucking cigarettes everywhere. Like, and then they stop it out on the ground. I'm like, pick that fucking up, man. What are you doing? Like, I don't need to see. That's gross. Your stupid little habit, your little gross habit. Anyway, Iron Eyes Cody was the Indian in that ad as the people are trucking through the Badlands, throwing their Burger King bag out the window. And then the camera would pan to Iron Eyes Cody, who was on a horse. And he would be crying because he loves America. Because this is my land. Look at what you've done to it. That whole thing. It was that message. It was supposed to guilt us. It's one of the earliest examples of a government policy of initiating white guilt. I think that I would prefer that white people feel guilty on their own rather than have it be suggested or forced by the government. But hey, that was that. What am I talking about here? Well, I'm getting up to the big reveal, which is that Iron Eyes Cody, America's favorite Native American, he wasn't Native American. He was an Italian guy from Brooklyn who kind of looked like an Indian or a native. Got his first role in like a Cowboys and Indian movie from the 1960s. And they were like, we need someone to play an Indian. And he was like, hey, well, forget about it. I could play an Indian. And they made him an Indian. And he got another role playing one. And he got another role and another role. And before you knew it, he was like the de facto Native American movie actor. He got all the roles, Iron Eyes Cody. Changed his name to Iron Eyes Cody. Then he bought into it. Then he like totally went with, yeah, I am a native Shoshone. And, you know, he totally went into that whole thing. He totally sued people in later years who were like, you're not even an Indian. He sued them. He lost, or I don't know what happened with it. But anyway, he was an Italian guy. And he took roles from actual natives who probably weren't even trying to get movie roles back then. I don't know. Maybe they were. But at any rate, putting Iron Eyes Cody. He's a fraud. Iron Eyes Cody's a fraud. We're putting him in hell. How about Jerry Rafferty, dead on this day in 2011? I don't know much about Jerry Rafferty, singer-songwriter. Here's what I know about him. I know that he was the lead singer in the band Steelers Wheels, and I know that he's the guy who sings Stuck in the Middle with You, which was not a classic song. It was a song that, if you were born in the early 70s or late 60s, you heard on the radio a few times. And then maybe you heard it on late night commercials, super sounds of the 70s. And, and they'd give you like, a little taste of it. But it wasn't a big song. It wasn't a classic song. Then Quentin Tarantino put it in the ear cutting off scene in Reservoir Dogs. Stuck in the middle with you. And now suddenly that song's like up there with Trampled Underfoot by Zeppelin. People are like, that song's a classic. I'm like, it wasn't. It wasn't. Had Quentin Tarantino not used that song, you would still not know what Steelers Wheels Stuck in the Middle with You is. Some of us would. Some of us who remember AM radio from the early 70s. But it was a disposable one-hit wonder. Anyway, Jerry Rafferty left that band and he went to do his own thing. He had a solo album. I believe it was called Baker Street. I don't know what that was. That was the song Something Something Baker Street. That's about as well as I can do. But he also had a song called Right Down the Line. Right Down the Line is a sappy yacht rock anthem. And I am a full bird Commodore in the yacht rock armada. And so for that reason, I'm putting Jerry Rafferty in heaven because I don't know about the other stuff, the other songs, whatever. But yeah, Right Down the Line. That's a timeless banger. That's a good song, man. How's it go? I can't even think how it goes. It's timeless. It's unforgettable. How's it go? I don't know. I forgot. All right, let's move on. Jerry Rafferty. We're putting him in heaven because of that song. Dead on this day in 2021, Tanya Roberts. Oh my God. She's in hell. Let's put her in hell because she was a party girl. And that's where she wants to be. She doesn't want to be in heaven. Tanya Roberts was the last angel or was Shelley Hack the last angel? Tanya Roberts became famous because she was one of Charlie's Angels. The originals, of course, being Farrah Fawcett, Kate Jackson, and Jacqueline Smith. As the show became a hit, we started to lose angels. Farrah was the first one to leave. She was replaced by Cheryl Ladd. So for a period of time, it was Cheryl Ladd, Kate Jackson, and Jacqueline Smith. And that's fine. I'll take any combination of those four. When I consider classic Charlie's Angels, yes, I do consider Cheryl Ladd to be classic Charlie's Angels, even though she came in season 2 after Farrah had left. That's fine. I still consider Bill Murray to be classic Saturday Night Live, even though he came in season 2 after Chevy Chase left. Same thing. So those are my classic 4 angels. Jill Monroe, Kelly Garrett, Sabrina Duncan, and Chris Monroe. Those Jill and Chris Monroe, Farrah and Cheryl were sisters. Kind of want to see their mom, don't you? I do. I want to see the mom that created Cheryl Ladd and Farrah Fawcett. Anyway, Tanya Roberts, I think, was she next? Is there one I'm forgetting? Because then I think they started rolling in like Shelley Hacks and Tanya Roberts. Anyway, Tanya Roberts had done a film called Beastmaster, where she was basically just wearing a loincloth and looked really great. And she wasn't famous, and she was kind of well known for that. And so they went, you want to be one of Charlie's Angels? So she became a Charlie's Angel. She's totally forgettable. She was most famous as Midge from that 70s show. Years later, she would play Midge, the super hot next door neighbor on that 70s show. She died, 2 years ago. No, 3 years ago now that I'm looking. And I think it was something sad. I think it was like something really messed up, like a disease that just kind of took her piece by piece. I don't know, whatever. She's in hell, though, because, you know, she was a 70s party girl and she doesn't want to go to heaven. Trust me, she's happy with this. All right, that's going to do it. That's it, folks. Quarter 1, quarter 2, and quarter 3 are now in the book. So it is time now for me once again to remind you that if you want to support this show and can support this show, sure would be greatly appreciated, as we are at the end of the month and we do not have enough to pay for this month. So we cannot fully move into January. I would like to thank our executive producer of today's show. That'd be Carlos. The executive producer of every day's show is the person who tipped the most during the previous day. So thank you very much to Carlos, executive producing this here show. All right, let's get into the news, huh? All right. So, all right, first of all, we start with Israel. You want to find news about Israel? There's a war going on over there. It's happening in Gaza. You can find in-depth coverage by really smart people who understand all the nuance of that situation a million other places. We're not going to really get into Israel that much. Moving on. Here we go. All right. So here's the story that I was covering most of the morning. I'm going to pull something up that has the most recent information, but I'm just going to give you what I compiled this morning as it was unfolding. So this was about 8:10 this morning when my scanner alert went off, and I looked at it and it said Dallas County, and I got a little confused and whatever. But when I finally got to the bottom of the story, Dallas County, Perry High School in Perry, Iowa, there was a school shooting this morning. It was the first day back in classes for students after their long break, and it happened before classes had begun. So it was like the first thing. Students were showing up for school, getting in classes. Here's what we know. This is what I heard off the scanner. Okay, so this morning on the scanner, I took some of these notes. Scanner, multiple subjects injured. Okay. Subject is deceased, self-inflicted. This was the person that they believe did the shooting. He, according to the police scanner early on, he's dead. This is like at 8:25 too. This was like really early. They found him right away. Then they found another girl. They described a girl injured. They needed life flight for. She had been struck twice in the head. She had been hit twice. There was also a report of numerous other people being taken to hospitals. Now, as of us signing on this show, I don't have any more information than that. I watched a press conference by the police. I think there's another press conference coming up here. The press conference that I watched was at 11 o'clock, and they said absolutely nothing. All they said was this was before school started. The suspect has been identified. We will not share that. We do not have a number of injured or deaths. So it was nothing. It was like a nothing. So I don't know what this is. But ABC, as of us signing on today, ABC was reporting that one is dead, multiple are injured. 7:37 a.m., the first calls to 911 came in. Cops responded within 7 minutes. They were on the scene. Upon arriving, police locates multiple GSVs, gunshot victims. Multiple. So the number is multiple. You know, no more detailed than that. Multiple GSVs, multiple gunshot victims. No further details on any of those were offered, and there is no further danger to the public. This comes from the police there. Now, let me see what the latest is. Let me see if I can find the absolute latest. Maybe we get a horrifying number. Maybe we get Perry High School, Iowa shooting. All right, let's see what the latest is. News, give me the latest. Bear with me. All right, so most recent. All right, you know what I'm going to go with? I'm going to go with the Des Moines Register. Okay, since I always like to go with the local news outlet. Why? Because they get first crack at all the news. Because they got the people who jumped in their car and drove to the scene and is actually seeing stuff. The stuff you hear reported on CNN and Fox News all comes from them anyway. So I'm going to go with the actual local newspaper. This is from the Des Moines Register. Get out, run, run, people yelled as shots fired at Perry High School. Let's see. The suspect in a shooting at Perry High School has died of what investigators believe is a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The official was not authorized to publicly discuss details of the investigation and spoke to the AP, the Associated Press, on condition of anonymity. Multiple people were shot at the high school on Tuesday morning, about 20 minutes before school was scheduled to begin. This, according to Dallas County Sheriff Adam Infante. Heavy police and medical presence was seen at the high school about 40 miles northwest of downtown Des Moines in Dallas County. Streets for several blocks were barricaded. Dozens of law enforcement from across central Iowa were on the scene, and a medical helicopter was seen landing at the school at about 8:30 a.m. Yeah, that's when I started listening. A call went out over the scanner for police or fire and EMS. Fire and EMS had been called to the scene to just sort of sit outside the perimeter just in case anything was, they needed it. And what they ended up doing was over the scanner, they ordered the firemen to make a landing zone for the helicopter that was coming in, which I thought was interesting. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Okay, parents started arriving at about 8:50 a.m. Found it interesting. While being horrified, look at me, I'm able to find things that pique my curiosity. Parents started arriving at about 8:50 a.m. to find their students. City spokesman Chris Kohea said the elementary school nearby was locked down and all students were being kept in their rooms. We don't have anything more. We don't have any details. We don't have any numbers. We don't have. So, all right. So maybe we'll find something more at the end. Maybe there'll be another press conference. There's supposed to be another one this afternoon sometime. First one was at 11. So I would imagine they usually do it in 3-hour shifts, 4 3-hour press conference updates on these big stories, especially on like day one. So 11, 12, 1, 2. So maybe by 2 o'clock Central Time. I'm guessing Iowa Central Time. I think it is. It is Iowa Central Time. Yeah, it's East when you start to. Yeah. All right. So we'll keep you updated on that. What is Frank saying? Frank's saying Tanya Roberts is what? I didn't get that. We were talking about Tanya Roberts earlier. Well, let me say hi to some people in the chat room here. Let me just run through all my people who are hanging out with us today. We got Byron. Hi, Byron. We got Cam. We got Peter. We got Leslie. We got Al. We got Adam. We got Whitney. We got Barney. Frank, April, Jeff. Wow, we got a great chat room today. We got Sam. Well, we got Mark. Call him, give him the respect of his Christian name. We got Mark. Jameson. Well, howdy do, Jameson. Taronda's here. I missed Taronda the last couple of days. I told you. It was her birthday. It was her birthday the other day. And I missed it because that's really what I think Facebook should be used for. And as I get more into Facebook, you people should expect birthday wishes from me because when I was on Facebook, that was something I did every day. Why? Let the people you like know. And that's not true because sometimes I would even say happy birthday to people that I don't particularly like, but you get it. Who else do we have? Hugh is here. Who else do we got? Rob Barr. Rob Barr of the band that is blowing up the West Coast music scene, Witch Kitty. Proud of you, Rob. I'm seeing stuff all the time. Very cool. All right, there you go. Chat room, everybody, have some fun. Chuck's here. Hi, Chuck. I don't want to miss anybody. Mike. Mike says Baker Street is yacht rock. Even the Foo Fighters covered it. Yeah. I know. Look. Hey, Mike. I don't want to get into. Look, we can parse what is and what isn't yacht rock. I would say that Baker Street is. I would say that Jerry Rafferty in general is a yacht rock artist. I just don't particularly like Baker Street as much as I like Right Down the Line. I think Right Down the Line is just a really strong song. It's just a good song. Baker Street, maybe, you know what? Hey, look at this. This is how we get old with grace, right? Maybe I'll check out Baker Street. Maybe I'll give it a listen. Because as I said earlier, I've been known, especially in my earlier days, I've been known to be a bit of a music snob where I would be closed-minded towards other things. Haven't been like that in a while, though. I pretty much like everything. All right, moving on. Here we go. This is what we've been waiting on, right? We've been waiting on the Epstein list. We got the Epstein list. But again, these are just names of people who were mentioned or name checked or whatever during the course of discovery in the 2015 Virginia Joffrey case against, she's the one who got Prince Andrew to write her a big check. This is all discovery and stuff. This is not I had to have this conversation with my kid yesterday. He goes, so the list of all the pedophiles is being released. My 14-year-old said this. I go, no. He said, yeah, it is. I go, no, it's not. A list of names that were said and mentioned in discovery of a long ago case for completely unrelated reasons to sex trafficking and all that. That's what we want, the list. We want to know who among, now, as I kept saying yesterday, I was too frustrated. I couldn't explain it to my kid, but I said, no, everybody whose name, basically I left it at this. Everybody whose name was on this list does not mean that they're a pedophile. It just means that they took a meeting with a rich guy. It just means that dude made contributions to a lot of things and people had to come and he supported charities and he had business and he was a name dropper and all of that stuff. So that's what's going on. Now, there are a lot of people that are going to get in a lot of trouble, and we can't wait to see those names, and we can't wait to throw them in jail if that's a possibility. But just because they've been named in this list does not mean that they are one and the same. Again, the Venn diagram, there's going to be a lot of overlap. We're going to see the overlap, but this is not a smoking gun. And I'll give you an example. Like here, we'll go through the list. We'll go through a list of some of the more prominent names that were mentioned and how they were mentioned. For instance, is it Leonardo DiCaprio? Leonardo DiCaprio got dragged into this. Like his name was on the list that was redacted. And his name is on the list because one of the accusers of Jeffrey Epstein was telling a story about how Jeffrey Epstein liked to name drop. And she said, yeah. And he said he knew Leonardo DiCaprio. So Leonardo DiCaprio goes on the list and the list gets released yesterday. And then people are like, see, Leonardo DiCaprio is a pedophile. No. Maybe, I don't know, but that certainly doesn't give you any evidence that he is or that he isn't. It was uncovered. He's not there. He's just somebody that Jeffrey Epstein used to say, yeah, I know him. And Jeffrey Epstein was apparently one of these guys who liked the name drop. So let's go through this, because this is going to be fun. That's not fun. It's going to be interesting, though. The A-list stars, politicians, and leading figures named in the Jeffrey Epstein files. Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Naomi Campbell, and Leonardo DiCaprio are among the famous faces in bombshell 1,000-page document. All right. So we're going to go through some of these names, and we're going to talk about the context of how they're mentioned. Some of them not so good. Like some of these names are like, oh, so this person is being accused of that. Others, like Leonardo DiCaprio, not so much. Others, like David Copperfield, that weird magician. He just went to a dinner party that was attended by like 100 other people. And because he was famous, he was name dropped. And he's like, hey, man, I just went to a dinner party and performed some tricks for some rich guy. And they paid me like 50 grand to eat a good meal and hobnob with folks. So there's a lot of this going on. We need to be diligent about getting to the actual predators, uncovering these famous people who have done these despicable things and have thought they could get away with it because of their position in life. That's what we need to be stayed drilled down on, not getting into some nonsense about Leonardo DiCaprio or David Copperfield or the other one, Naomi Campbell. Naomi Campbell was a pilled out supermodel who rode on his plane a bunch of times. You know why? Because supermodels can jump on any rich dude's private jet they want. It happens all the time. Just happens all. It doesn't mean they're friends. It just means they meet in, some admiral's lounge somewhere. And they're like, oh, I've got to head back to LA. And then the rich billionaire goes, well, I'm heading back to LA. Why don't you jump on my flight? And they're like, okay. Happens all the time with rich people in their private jets. Naomi Campbell wasn't like, first of all, she's a woman and she was like in her 30s. She's not accused of molesting anyone, but her name got brought up because she rode on the plane. I do have questions for some people who are name checked here, who are name checked as being present on the island. Okay, Little St. John, otherwise known in crazy batshit circles as Lolita Island. It's Little St. John, but yeah, there's some shit that I think went down there. And if you are name checked in these documents as somebody who is at the island, yeah, get a lawyer. Get a lawyer. Those are the people we need to drill down on. Not freaking pilled out Naomi Campbell drunkenly stumbling on some anonymous billionaire's jet. And all of a sudden she's a child sex trafficker. You know, it's not fair. She's a terrible person, by the way. I don't defend Naomi Campbell. Well, actually, that was her response to it. She's like, look, everyone knows I'm no saint. But I myself have been the victim of sex abuse. And she was like passed around as a teenage model in Paris. Or at least that's what she claimed. She's like, I had no idea that that's what this dude was about. I was just getting on a rich dude's plane. The identities of dozens of well-known figures like linked to Jeffrey Epstein have been revealed in court papers unsealed in the United States overnight. The files are part of a defamation case brought against Epstein's Madam Ghislaine, I always get the name Ghislaine Maxwell, who is serving 20 years in jail for sex trafficking underage girls to him. She was sued by Virginia Roberts, now known as Virginia Giuffre, who claims she was forced to have sex with the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, 3 times in 2001 when she was 17. And she claims these are claims the Duke vehemently denies, but he paid her, right? We know he paid her to shut her up. Here's another thing. I don't know how to say this because I just think it's a piece of. I think it changed. I see. It doesn't change. Monsters are monsters. But it seems like all the girls are like 17 and 16. I guess what I'm saying is, thankfully, we're not hearing about any of these victims being children, little kids, you know what I mean? Because it's bad. You don't think there's a difference between a 17-year-old girl who has to go through this and a 5-year-old who has to go through this? Because I do. And that's all I'm saying. And that was interesting to me because as more and more of these ages of these underage girls are, 14 is really disturbing. Apparently Epstein liked 14. A 14-year-old girl is a little kid. Still looks like a little kid. 17, 18, they start to change. And I guess what I'm saying is like the pedophile attraction, what was his attraction? Because it doesn't seem like he was attracted to tiny toddlers or anything like, ugh. He's attracted to like high school girls, like a weird pervy gym coach. And he did. Jeffrey Epstein started out as a teacher at like a fancy school in New York, a private school. That's how he got into finance. Apparently he became friendly with like some president of Bear Stearns, and he went from being a math teacher at a fancy Central Park private school to being like a trader on Wall Street, and then on to being one of the world's most noted sex predators. Okay, so let's move on to some of these names of people who were name checked. Okay, so let's go. Let's see here. Also mentioned are the late physicist Stephen Hawking and magician David Copperfield. Woo, if I'm David Copperfield, I don't want my name mentioned with Stephen Hawking because Stephen Hawking got the smoke. David Copperfield, as I said, his whole thing is they were like, yes. And then there was a big dinner party with 100 guests, and there were a lot of interesting people there. And the lawyer in the deposition said, interesting people like who? And she goes, well, David Copperfield was there. He was hired to do tricks. So David Copperfield's name now appears in this thing. And he's like, hey, man, I just took a gig. I just took a job. Not the case with Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking is being accused of participating in an underage child sex orgy at the island. He's being accused of that in print. So there you go. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for people who have stories about individuals. Now he's dead, which is like, oh, great. So is that why? Because he's dead? Because you can't tell us that, Bill Clinton participated in a sex orgy because he's not. You can't tell us that Donald Trump, used to have a child sex room at Mar-a-Lago where Epstein was a original member, which is interesting. No. All right, moving on. Let's see here. So some of the names mentioned, we'll just go over some of the celebrity names that were mentioned that were not tied to any illicit deeds. Cameron Diaz, Leonardo DiCaprio. Who is this? I don't know. I mentioned her. Who is that chick? Kate Blanchett, Naomi Campbell. All right. So there's them. Let's see. All right. So we know about Prince Andrew, right? That's not new. Prince Andrew, he settled out of court. He's accused of having a multiple sexual experiences with a 17-year-old Virginia Giuffre. She was Virginia Roberts at the time. Virginia Roberts was a 16-year-old. Let's get the backstory. Virginia Roberts was a 16-year-old locker room attendant at Mar-a-Lago. She was a 16-year-old Florida girl who was a locker room attendant at Mar-a-Lago. She met Jeffrey Epstein there, and Jeffrey Epstein hired her away from Mar-a-Lago to become his personal masseuse. And this is where she was paid to engage in, at 16 years old, starting at 16, paid to engage in sexual massages, fully nude massages with Jeffrey Epstein. She was also someone who Ghislaine Maxwell used to recruit other girls, and she is the one who brought the case and came public first about Jeffrey Epstein and more specifically Prince Andrew. Here's a picture here. I'll show you these as we go through them. Because the pictures are just, at this point now, knowing what we know, they're just so creepy. And they're just, ugh. And by the way, these pictures that I will show you are all vetted pictures that have gone through the legal system and been deemed authentic. I'm sure that there are a lot of pictures that you can see online, people gifted with Photoshop. I'll tell you a picture, though, that I had always thought was BS, but it's not. You ever seen the picture of Bill Clinton getting the back rub at the airport, at the private jet airport by the young teenage girl? I got to be honest, I saw that picture for the very first time a couple of years ago, and I dismissed it as being so absurd and such a smoking gun, especially for someone with the well-known sexual peccadillos of a Bill Clinton. To have this picture out there, I just assumed it was fake. It's not. It's a real picture. It is a real picture of former President Bill Clinton while on a flight. Jeffrey Epstein's while flying with Jeffrey, and by the way, he flew with him all the time. Now, again, the excuse for that from the Clinton people has always been, well, he jumps on a lot of people's planes. And they do. That is a thing. Rich people with private jets share their jets. And if they can get a former president of the United States on their jet, they'll do it. Why? Because the rich guy then gets to go to dinner and go, yeah, I was flying me and Bill Clinton, my friend. I flew him. It's all about access. So people with these jets, and by the way, politicians, they're the greatest offenders of this because politicians cannot be seen to have their own private jets. And politicians do not want to fly commercial. So politicians fly almost exclusively with lobbyists and rich guys and all of that stuff. So the very fact that Bill Clinton flew on this guy, Epstein, who was a big political contributor, flew on his jet privately when he was out of office is not a smoking gun. But you know what is? A creepy ass picture of a young looking girl massaging the former president. That's weird. And that turns out that's a real picture. Let me see if maybe we got that one. So I'm not political. This is not a political thing. We'll get to Trump and we'll get to Trump's involvement in all of this because it ain't better. And it may even be worse because although Clinton is reputed to have flown on the plane multiple times, it really appears that Trump actually liked Epstein. After all of the charges, when the Epstein thing first came up, Trump said, yeah, I'm not friends with him anymore, but he's a great guy. So that's troubling. But the Clinton stuff, I mean, we got a picture of Clinton getting a back massage. That's very troubling. All right, so here, we'll show you the first, we'll go through some of these pictures just so you get an idea. Boom, 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 boom. So here's some of the celebrities that are mentioned in the Epstein list. Again, these celebrities, none of them are being linked to any sort of, deviant behavior, sex behavior, or anything. It's all like businesses and charities. And of course, in the case of this one right here, Naomi Campbell, she's the charity. She just needed a ride to New York for Fashion Week. All right, so there's that. All right, so there's Prince Andrew, right? There's Prince Andrew. That's the Queen's idiot son. That is the brother of the King of England. He's the Billy Carter of the United Kingdom now. After this, he wrote a check. Here's the picture that he wrote a check for. Yeah, that's troubling. There you say Ghislaine in the background. I want to know this. I don't know how close you can get to that picture. Can we make that picture bigger? Yeah, let's see if that works. There we go. It's a little bit bigger. Where are they? They look like they're in a budget hotel or something. That's for the money. This is the prince. This is a prince, and it looks like they're in like a weird hotel room somewhere. So this is Prince Andrew, and this is Virginia Roberts, Virginia Joffrey. This is when she was 17 years old. This is apparently when she was being pimped. We'll just call it what it is. She was being underage pimped, allegedly, to Prince Andrew. Again, he denies it. Nope, nothing happened, but he wrote a big ass check to her. And then we got this picture. So what do you make of that? I don't know. He's got his hand right here. This seems, yeah. What are you doing taking pictures, right? What is that about? Why are you taking pictures? All right, let's go back to the story. We'll leave that up as I read the story. There's a second accuser, a girl by the name of Joanna Soberg. She shed new light on an April 2001 trip to New York in which she said Prince Andrew touched her breast while they posed for a photo at Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. In the testimony, some of which appeared as excerpts in previous court filings, Soberg said she and Virginia Joffrey had flown with Epstein to New York on his private jet. Ghislaine Maxwell and Prince Andrew were said to have met them there. So he wasn't just doing the one, or allegedly having the underage illegal sex with Virginia. He was also partying with this other girl who was 17 at the time as well, Joanna Shorberg. All right, so what else do we got here? Prince Andrew, again, wrote the big check. All right, now let's get into the Bill Clinton stuff. All right, Bill Clinton's name was listed. So let's talk about what exactly I'll find the Bill Clinton picture for y'all. Look at them. Look at these two. Look at these two just out there, catting it out there on the town, looking for ladies, changing the world. I don't like that picture at all. There are also mentions in the document of Jeffrey Epstein's past friendship with former U.S. President Bill Clinton, who was not accused of any wrongdoing. Yeah, tell that to Twitter. Not accused of any wrongdoing. Really? Jeffrey Epstein claimed Bill Clinton liked him young. This according to Joanna Soberg. That's the other victim. Deposition documents show Miss Soberg was asked if she knew the former U.S. president was a friend of Epstein. So this is how Bill Clinton's name gets involved in this thing. This particular release of documents, this is how Bill Clinton's name appears. During discovery, a lawyer asked Joanna Soberg this question. She was asked if she knew the former U.S. president was a friend of Epstein. She answered, "I knew he had dealings with Bill Clinton. I did not know they were friends until I read that Vanity Fair article about them going to Africa together." Again, that's part of the Clinton Global Initiative charity thing, which, seems good on paper, but if it's honestly just a front for child sex trafficking and for Clinton to fly around the world with this super predator. Asked if Epstein had ever talked about the former president, Mrs. Soberg said, "He said one time that Clinton likes him young," referring to girls. I don't doubt that. How young, though? You know what I mean? Like for Bill Clinton, liking him young is a woman in her late 40s. Joffrey never alleged he was involved in illegal behavior. But her attorneys said the former president was a key person who can provide information about his close relationship with Ghislaine and Epstein. Maxwell's attorneys countered that Clinton's testimony was not relevant to this case. Because he's such a... Why does he do this stuff, right? He's flying around with a guy that it's well known that the guy was a child molester. He's flying around with him post-2005 when the Palm Beach County Police had him registered as a sex offender. Clinton's still flying around with him. Look, I understand someone like Leonardo DiCaprio showing up looking for money for some charity project that he's involved in, not knowing the exact peccadillos of some random New York Wall Street billionaire. But Bill Clinton knew. Bill Clinton's advisors knew, hey, this guy's got to register as a sex offender and you're flying on planes with him? Jesus, you just can't defend this. And again, I'm not a righty and I'm not a lefty. I'm just looking at this right down the middle. This is how you talk about this issue. There's no politics involved. This looks bad. And I'm not gonna hedge it because I don't want to hurt people who like Bill Clinton. And I don't want to make it seem bigger than it is in order to pander to people who hate Bill Clinton. But the facts as they lay are distressing. And there seems like there's more. All right, so that's Bill Clinton. All right, now let's move on to Donald Trump. Why not, right? These guys, there's a whole lot of pictures of those two together as well. Let's see. Here's one of the more famous ones. Boom. There you go. Look at him. Isn't that a creepy ass foursome? All right. Epstein accuser Joanna Soberg said she and Virginia Joffrey had flown with Jeffrey Epstein to New York on his private jet. On the way to New York, Soberg testified that Epstein's jet diverted to Atlantic City, New Jersey to spend a few hours at one of Donald Trump's casinos because of bad weather. Upon hearing the change of plans, Soberg recalled Epstein saying, "Great, we'll call Donald." So Soberg wasn't asked if they'd met up with Trump that night. Later in the testimony, she said she was never asked to give Trump a massage. Trump previously said that Trump previously said that he once thought Epstein was a terrific guy, but they had later had a falling out. Trump did not divulge details on why the falling out. In her deposition, Joffrey said the summer she turned 17, she was lured away from a job as a spa attendant at Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago club to become the private masseuse for Epstein, a job that involved performing sexual acts. Doug Band. Okay, do we need that band told? All right, we don't need to go in. I want to get out of the politics. Now there's just a whole bunch of stuff about how they're friends and stuff. We don't need to go into that. Because here's the thing. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein, for about 20 years, they were both New York City billionaires. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein financed things, and Donald Trump was just always looking for financing. So the fact that there are a whole lot of pictures from the early 2000s of Donald Trump running around with Jeffrey Epstein, that makes perfect sense. It makes more sense than the pictures of Bill Clinton, former president of the United States, with no ties to New York big business, hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein. Do you see there is a difference there? Donald Trump, you understand there's probably going to be a bunch of pictures. They've probably been going to the same charity events. They've probably been moving in the same circles, the same money New York circles for about 20 years. It's understandable. I mean, there are other wrinkles to it. Like, it seems like they were more than just people who were in Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. They were more than just people who were in a room. They do seem to have had some kind of a friendship. There are just dozens of pictures of them laughing it up and having fun. I mean, through the years, young Donald Trump and young Jeffrey. But again, until you can show me a picture of Donald Trump getting a back rub from some 17-year-old in the employ of Jeffrey Epstein, I'm going to say it looks worse for Clinton. And that's not political. I'm not shocked at all that Donald Trump has terrible judge of character of people. I bet Donald Trump's got a lot of shithead friends, a lot of terrible friends. It doesn't shock me. But it should shock us that there's any connection at all between Epstein and the Clintons other than he gave money to them. They shouldn't be flying around. They shouldn't be friendly. It's just weird. It's more understandable that there would be a Epstein New York Trump connection than it is that there's a Epstein Bill Clinton connection. It's troubling. How about Stephen Hawking? All right. See, this is bad. Stephen Hawking, man, talk about catching strays. He didn't catch a stray. It's almost like they went for him directly. Stephen Hawking, the guy who suffered from that disease that had him basically couldn't move, couldn't talk, breathe through a tube, but his brain was apparently supercharged. Smartest guy in the world, Stephen Hawking, being accused of participating in child sex orgies. Jeffrey Epstein was ready to reward one of his victims' friends if they could prove that any of Joffrey's allegations false. All right, so you get this. So Jeffrey Epstein and his people went to all of Virginia Joffrey's friends and family and said, look, we're going to pay you. We'll give you a whole lot of money if you can say something that's going to, make your girl here look like a liar. So there was a reward, right? If you step forward and make sure that we all know she's a liar, I'll give you a check. So that was a thing. Jeffrey Epstein was ready to reward one of his victims' friends if they could prove that her allegations were false, including that Professor, this is one of the allegations that Virginia Joffrey made, including one that Professor Stephen Hawking participated in an underage child orgy. This was in the court documents. An email from Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell showed he was content for her to issue a reward to any of Virginia Joffrey's friends to counter her claims shortly after she filed a civil claim in 2015. All right, so the email reads, you can issue a reward to any of Virginia's friends, acquaintances, or family that come forward and help prove her allegations are false. Again, this is Epstein writing to Ghislaine. The strongest is the Clinton dinner and the new version in the Virgin Islands that Stephen Hawking participated in an underage orgy. All right, so that's apparently something that's being said. People are talking. David Copperfield in May of 2016. Jeffrey Epstein accuser Joanna Solberg described going to a dinner party at one of Epstein's homes that was also attended by magician David Copperfield. She said Copperfield did magic tricks before asking if she was aware that girls were getting paid to find other girls. One of the key allegations. Okay, hold on. She said Copperfield did magic tricks before asking if she was aware that girls were getting paid to find other girls. All right, so Joanna Sorberg, who is not Virginia Joffrey, Joanna Sorberg, she says that at a dinner party, David Copperfield was hired to do tricks. He spoke to her and he said, are you aware that there are other ways? So what, did he know? Was he involved? Was he disgusted? That's weird. He knows something here, so it's a little bit more innocent, or not quite as innocent as maybe it was first presented. Michael Jackson is name checked. Jeffrey Epstein accuser Joanna Solberg testified in the newly released deposition that she once met Michael Jackson at Epstein's home in Palm Beach, Florida. But she added that nothing untoward happened. Jackson died in Los Angeles at age 50. All right, so Michael Jackson. This is not, we can't have it all ways, people. What is Michael Jackson? Is Michael Jackson a gay child molester? He seemed like boys, right? That was the thing. Little boys is what that's Michael Jackson. That's not Jeffrey Epstein's thing. This is, again, why I said we got to make a distinction of the kind, specifically in talking about the kind of sexual predator he was. Michael Jackson was accused of being a sexual predator to boys, young boys. Doesn't really, I don't know. Maybe Epstein could hook that up. I don't know, but it seems like it's all women so far. Again, nothing about Michael Jackson doing anything, just that he was at his house once. And again, he was a billionaire. He did a lot of business with people. Still, though, I do a lot of business with people. I don't go to their house. Then again, I don't do big business. And then again, the people I'm doing business with don't have houses like Jeffrey Epstein probably had. So who knows? Pilot David Rogers had previously revealed logs from 2009, which showed that Naomi Campbell was among those who flew on the jet multiple times. In a video from 2019, she admitted that she knew Epstein, adding, I was introduced to him on my 31st birthday by my ex-boyfriend. All right. Leonardo DiCaprio, let's see here. In a 2016 deposition of Epstein victim Joanna Solberg, she was asked if she had met Leonardo DiCaprio. Mrs. Soberg said that she had never met Leo, but that Epstein loved to name drop celebrities during massages. So that's how Leonardo DiCaprio catches a stray. They just randomly threw out a celebrity, and she's like, yeah, no, he said he knew a lot of people, but no, we never met or mentioned Leonardo DiCaprio. Doesn't matter. The name Leonardo DiCaprio has now been mentioned, and it's now in the public record, and those are the documents that were released. You see, just because you're named in there doesn't mean you're just apropos of nothing. Hey, what do you think of Leonardo DiCaprio? And now he's listed. Kate Blanchett, Cameron Diaz, and Bruce Willis were all also mentioned. I saw one press report. This is from the document. Attorney to the victim. I saw one press report that said you had met Kate Blanchett. Answer. I did not meet her, no. When I spoke about it, it was when I was massaging Epstein and he would get off. He would be on the phone a lot of that time. And one time he said, oh, that was Leonardo. Or, oh, that was Kate Blanchett or Bruce Willis. It was that kind of thing. So look at that. That's how Bruce Willis catches strays in this whole thing. Today, there's some crazy right-wingers going, Bruce Willis, another example of the... She was giving examples of celebrities. She was just pulling celebrity names out, but it went into the public record, and now we're going over it today, and there are people... Seriously. It's crazy. It's great because there's no distinction made between the context of why a name was mentioned. Stephen Hawking, that seems bad. Bill Clinton, that seems bad. Trump, that seems questionable. Naomi Campbell, and certainly not. And who else we got here? So Alan Dershowitz. Now, Alan Dershowitz, he's been directly accused of having sex with Virginia Joffrey, the same girl that we saw in the picture there with Prince Andrew. Let's see if we can get back to Virginia Joffrey. See if it's the same one. Any of the pictures? Oh, here's Stephen Hawking. Oh, see, this is disturbing. Look at this one. Okay, I forgot to show you this picture. Here is Stephen Hawking on Little St. John Island. So he's there. So, although, again, man, geez. How much say did Stephen Hawking have about where he was from one moment to the next? I mean, obviously someone brought him there. He didn't. So I don't know. It seems kind of unfair. Okay, so that's really heavy charges against Stephen Hawking that he participated in child sex orgies, which is nasty. But again, Stephen Hawking, somebody had to put him there, right? And then there's a whole bunch of fashion industry people. There's, you got guys who run modeling agencies. One dude, this Jean-Luc Brunel, who ran a modeling agency out of France, he was arrested for sex trafficking and being tied into the whole Jeffrey thing. He also killed himself in prison. Huh? Did you know this? Did you know that another dude, a top dude, the modeling agent who recruited young models for Jeffrey Epstein, did you know that he was arrested in France on charges related to the Epstein investigation, and he killed himself before he could talk? Jean-Luc Brunel. The documents name many public figures known to have associated with Jeffrey Epstein over the years, but whose relationships with him have been already well documented elsewhere. One of them is Jean-Luc Brunel, a French modeling agent close to Epstein, who was awaiting trial on charges that he raped underage girls when he killed himself in a Paris jail in 2022. Virginia Joffrey was among the women who had accused Brunel of sexual abuse. His name was peppered throughout the documents released today. The documents show that Jeffrey said during a 2016 deposition that she had been told by Ghislaine Maxwell to have sex with several men. After asking Jeffrey in turn about each of the men, Laura Menninger, a lawyer who was part of Maxwell's legal team at the time, asked, other than Glenn Dubin and Prince Andrew, Jean-Luc Brunel, the large hotel chain Marvin Minsky, is there anyone else that Ghislaine Maxwell directed you to have sex with? Mrs. Joffrey replied, I am definitely sure there is, but can I remember everybody's name? No. Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel is name checked in this document that was released. His relationship, I'm not sure, how did he get name checked? The politician was allegedly a regular guest of Epstein at his Upper East Side townhouse and also flew on Epstein's jet. In her deposition, Epstein accuser Joanna Solberg denied ever meeting Barak. All right. So Ehud Barak. Now, here's again what you got to know about this. So why is a former prime minister of Israel hanging out or meeting with, and he's listed there in all these business meetings. He had these meetings. It wasn't just knocking on the door. Hey, want to hang out tonight? He was there for business meetings. What would he possibly have to do with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein was a billionaire who donated a large portion of his money to Israeli causes. So that kind of makes sense. Kind of makes sense that he would have some relationship. Epstein was a very pro-Israel dude. Ehud Barak, not accused of anything, but got himself name checked, caught astray. Kevin Spacey. Yeah, even Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey was also mentioned in the documents once, in which Epstein accuser Joanna Solberg denied meeting him. Okay, so see, that's how the person goes, did you ever meet Kevin Spacey? She goes, no. And then still, Kevin Spacey is there in the document. He was mentioned in the court case. That's why it's redacted, because it doesn't mean anything. But we all need to see all the names, and so that's why Kevin Spacey was mentioned. Kevin Spacey was also mentioned in the documents once, in which Epstein accuser Joanna Solberg denied meeting him. Solberg was asked by an attorney, I may have already asked you, but have you ever met Kevin Spacey? She replied, no. He's fishing. The attorney is just fishing, throwing names out to get him on the record for what? To embarrass people unnecessarily? Kevin Spacey, by the way, I don't know that he needs any more embarrassment. He's been thoroughly embarrassed over the last couple of years. But, this is the thing. So now we're going to read things on Twitter about how it's official. What? You didn't read it? Kevin Spacey was having sex with Stephen Hawking. Not at all the fact. Fact is that an attorney in the deposition during the discovery stage of the 2015 case in Minnesota asked a random question, if the victim had ever met Kevin Spacey. He might have said, have you ever met Kobe Bryant? He said Kevin Spacey. Why? Probably, I'm guessing. Well, wait a second. This is 2015, so it wasn't already well known that Kevin Spacey was a creeper. See, I don't know. I got to think all this through. What else? Who else do we have here? George Lucas. George Lucas catching strays. Star Wars dude. George Lucas. Star Wars creator George Lucas was also named in the documents, although with no suggestion of any wrongdoing. Jeffrey Epstein accuser Joanna Solberg was asked in May of 2016 whether she had met or given massages to a number of high-profile celebrities, including Lucas. But she denied having done so or ever having met them, and that was the only mention of Lucas in the document. Look at that. Just fishing, throwing names out, see if she's got any stories. And then those names are a part of the permanent record. And because in the very beginning, the judge was like, well, there's no reason to involve George Lucas in this, they redacted it. And then because we don't trust anything, we all demanded those names be unredacted, and we got the list. And now it's George Lucas and this poor guy who's probably not done anything wrong. There's nothing here to suggest that he has. But now this guy is somehow attached to the Epstein case. The man who gave us R2-D2 is having a bad day. All right, that's it. Other than that, as I said, this was just a list of names that were associated with the discovery process in a 2015 lawsuit out of Minnesota. That's all. That's what this is. This is not a client list. First of all, what is a client list? Are you confusing this with like a brothel situation? There's not going to be a client list. There's going to be drips and drabs of information that place people in certain places, like Little St. John Island or on the Lolita Express plane. There's going to be these kinds of drips and drabs of information, but there's not. Do you think there's going to be a list of, here are people who had sex with children? Why would that list be a thing? Now, there was a great belief that Epstein had been compiling compromat, blackmail, that he'd been putting cameras all around his houses, and he might have a treasure trove of that stuff. That's not a list. That is not a list, but that is something that I want to, that is going to give us some real hardcore information, but there's no list. This isn't like when they take down a brothel and they have a whole list of clients and credit card numbers. That's not what's going to happen here. So stop asking for a list. This is the closest thing you're going to get to a list. It's names of people who were mentioned during the discovery process of a 15-year-ago case. All right, moving on. Coronavirus is it's back. It's back, and if I'm being honest with you, I think it's happening in this house. I think there have been a number of people whose Christmases were a little bit jacked up due to coronavirus. I can say I know one little boy who spent Christmas and Christmas Day in bed at his grandma's house because that was not a fun trip for him to make. But he's sick, and he's just getting over it now. And now I'm getting sick, and it's happening. It is happening, people. It is back. And here's what I think. I think it's going to happen every single season. I think it's just a thing now. We used to have the flu. Now we got the flu and this. This is, the United States is in the throes of another COVID-19 uptick, cementing a pattern of the virus surging around the holidays as doctors and public health officials brace for greater transmission after Americans return to school and work this week. Coronavirus samples detected in wastewater, the best metric for estimating community viral activity, suggests infections could be as rampant as they were last winter. Was it bad last winter? I don't remember. That's a good thing. Moving on. Last winter, if it was so bad, I don't remember it. And they're thinking this. Look, here's what I know. It's been around. It was really bad like 3 years ago. Remember that? Remember when we shut everything down and made kids go to school in their living room in their PJs? That was crazy. Or bedroom, I guess. Better case. It took like 2 years. It took like 2.5 years into coronavirus for me to actually get the coronavirus. Actually, I think it was more than that because I never had it. Never like the really hot months, like remember, March, April, May, June, July, August of 2020. That was prime. We're freaking out. We got no vaccine, wearing masks. And then by November, December, January of 2020 into January, February, March of 2021, that's when the mask backlash started, where everybody starts. So, I remember that. I never had it. I never caught it. And then I got my vax. Whoop. In vax number 1, I was like, okay. Everybody's like, you're gonna feel a little sick. Didn't have anything with vax shot number 1, and I'm good. I'm back out in the world, and everything's happening. I'm feeling vaxxed. I'm feeling protected, and nothing happens. And then it comes time for my booster, and they're like, time to get a booster. It's a year later. I'm like, all right, I am hot. I am avoiding this thing. I am not getting it. And then I get the booster, and I got sick. Only for 36 hours. And when it was over, it was over. I woke up from a nap feeling 100%. I went to sleep. I had a fever of 102, 103. It was the worst. And it was caused directly by the booster. So up until that point, my corona experiences had been by choice. It's like, I guess I went and gave it to myself by getting the booster, because if I hadn't gotten the booster, I probably would have never gone through those 36 hours of absolute hell. Now, also, we don't know what we don't know. And what we don't know is, what if I had gotten exposed to it and I didn't have it? And, I'm my heart and I'm all this and everything's bad and now I'm dead. So whatever. So I'm happy I got it. But the sickest I got was when I had the booster. Fast forward another year, right? I got it last year. I got it I think I had it in May or June of this year. And I figured it like this. I figured, booster's wearing off. I'm not going to get another booster. I'm fine. I got one, and then I got a booster. I got 2 shots in me. If my body isn't creating the proper defense for this, it's familiar with it. It's not something new anymore. So I felt like I was pretty good. I got sick, and I'm like, oh my God, I think I got corona. And I peed, and it came up, or whatever. You do the corona test, and I came up, and I had corona. Said I had corona. I'm like, shit. So now I got it. I got corona in June of 2023. Oh my God, what a poser I am. All the cool kids were getting it back in March of 2020. I have to wait. But here's the thing, it went away really quick, and it wasn't bad at all. And I remember thinking, that's it? I'm starting to feel better already. So I don't know. It didn't take me out. All right, moving on. Corona, be careful. It's out there. My kid fought it like a champ. You know, he was fine. And thankfully, because he's a healthy 14-year-old young boy who doesn't have any, physical limitations and all that kind of stuff. Although he did have some issues when he was born. When he was born, he had oh no, wait, that was me. Is that a tree out there swaying in the background? No, me. I'm the one that was born with all kinds of immunity issues, not him. Sometimes I confuse. All right, moving on. George Santos, he's in the news. George Santos, everybody's favorite failed congressman. George Santos is in the news because his story, which was a book, it was like a best-selling New York Times book or some nonsense like that. It's called The Fabulist, The Crazy Life of George Santos. It has been optioned by HBO to become either a movie or a miniseries or something like that. I don't know if this is going to be an HBO thing or if this is going to be an HBO Max thing, but what I do know, it's going to be really good. Why? Because the guy who optioned it and who is developing it is Frank Rich, and Frank Rich is awesome. Frank Rich, everything Frank Rich has done on television is great. Now, Frank Rich is, of course, in the 80s and 90s, maybe, he was the New York Times culture critic. He was the TV reviewer. He was the movie reviewer. He then moved into a more mainstream columnist role at the New York Times, where he just kind of opined on culture in general. About 20 years ago or so, he left the New York Times, Frank Rich, after writing a whole bunch of books about American culture and all that kind of stuff. He left and he went out to Hollywood, started striking it rich. Most notably, Frank Rich brought us Succession. That's right. So if you like Succession, that's the kind of stuff that Frank Rich does. Let's see. Here is the story. The ousted U.S. rep shares his thoughts on Succession executive producer Frank Reich optioning the rights to Mark Chiusano's book about Santos. Let me see. Continue reading. All right, so this is taken from an interview with Santos. The story actually broke yesterday. I had it on Variety. I don't know why I have this version of it. It says, like many, I've been fascinated and entertained by the story of former U.S. Rep George Santos, the best soap opera Washington has seen in many a year. Obviously, Frank Rich and executives at HBO were equally entertained because on the day after he was expelled from Congress, HBO Films announced that it had optioned the rights to Fabulist, the lying, hustling, grifting, stealing, and very American legend of George Santos. Let's see here. The film is pitched as a forensic and darkly comic look at the crazy, unprecedented congressional race on Long Island that led to Santos being elected to Congress. This sounds great. First of all, the story is something that we're all vaguely familiar with, so we don't need a whole bunch of hand-holding to understand the concept of what's happening. So we're familiar with it, but we don't know the details and we don't know the minutiae. And there's been so much information and so many crazy things about this guy that it'll be nice to see somebody else just lay it all out for us so that we can just watch it. Secondly, not only is the content that's being proposed fascinating, but it's HBO. HBO doesn't make trash. Never have, never will. HBO, if it's on HBO, it may not be something that you love. Like you're like, it's not really for me. But here's what you're not going to go. You're not going to see something that's an HBO production and go, that was like really dumb. That was so stupid and poorly made. No, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So it's a good story. It's got a good network behind it. And then let's add on Frank Rich, who, he was the EP of Succession. So he exec produced Succession. So if you liked Succession, the guy who is most involved in everything that you liked is Frank Rich, the executive producer. So if it's going to have that kind of vibe, that kind of prestige to it, it's going to be on HBO. I'm looking forward to it. All right, George Santos. It's not named yet, but I know it's going to be called The Fabulist. It's going to be called Fabulist, the George Santos story. That's my bet. All right, moving on. Here's the thing that I worry about with George Santos, because we live in this era where, first of all, he's going to be able to make millions of dollars every year for the next 15 years if he so chooses. Don't feel bad for him. He's happy to be out of there. Why? Because he's just going to do a YouTube channel, and every once in a while he's going to say something really crazy about somebody in Washington, and everybody's going to pick it up, and all of a sudden that YouTube channel is going to have 50 million likes. And George Santos is going to get very, very wealthy. He's going to be living like one of those 18-year-old YouTubers who bought their first mansion and are now just like living in a mansion, skateboarding around the walls and stuff with all their buddies. That's what George Santos is about to get. And even short of that, he can just write a book. He's like, I want to write my story. I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. Probably get $1 million bonus for that. The dude is just, life ain't fair. He's going to have a nice life. He's got a little bit of fame. If he's cool about it, like me, like I think I could handle George Santos fame. Like I think that if that situation befell me, I think that I could spend the next 10 years of my life. I think I could have fun with it. I think I might, might have fun with it. Own it. Don't be thin-skinned. My advice to George Santos: don't be thin-skinned. Own it. You're a national punchline. People are going to get tired of laughing at this joke. Laugh along with them until they do, and then just come back. Just come back and do something crazy. Do something crazy again, and they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, we like that guy." Seriously, George Santos is not like broke ass. He's gonna be fine. Lululemon is in the news. Lululemon is in the news because their owner, and I want to break this down for you. I want to talk about what their owner said and what he's being accused of. He's the former owner. He hasn't been a part of Lululemon in years as far as day-to-day operation of the company. You know what Lululemon is? Lululemon is a monster of a store. It didn't used to be. Lululemon over the past 5 years has exploded. I didn't even know what Lululemon was 10 years ago. And then my son's mother, she was like an ambassador, like a yoga model for Lululemon or something. And they used to put her, like, she'd go to North Park Mall. And she would like model in the windows, like live models doing like these crazy yoga poses. So that was my first introduction to it. But now it is like a massive, massive company. Dudes are walking around wearing Lululemon pants. It's not just for yoga chicks anymore. Now it's like for everybody. Yoga, lifestyle, whatever. It's a big deal. It's a big company. So this dude is no longer in charge, but he is the founder of the company. And he still owns like, well, we'll put it this way. In the last 5 years, he's made $4 billion off of the Lululemon expansion. So in the past 4 years, he's made past 5 years, he's made $4 billion not being the guy in charge of Lululemon anymore, but he still holds a whole bunch of stock in the company. Lululemon's billionaire founder. Now here's the headline. I want you to read this headline. This comes from Fortune magazine. Lululemon's billionaire founder slams. So now he's slamming it. Remember, he just slammed it. Lululemon's billionaire founder slams the company's diversity and inclusion efforts. And then they've got a quote for him. You've got to be clear that you don't want certain customers coming in. Wow. Wow, is that provocative and wildly out of context. Everything in that headline is so disastrously out of context. I want to buy a plane ticket. I want to fly to the Fortune magazine headquarters, and I want to kick whoever wrote that headline right in the face. It is completely disingenuous, and it is entirely designed to gin up stupid people who already want to be angry. I'm going to read it to you one more time. Lululemon's billionaire founder slams the company's diversity and inclusion efforts. So he's slamming. He's like, I'm sick of them letting black people in the store, right? That's what they're getting at here. Lululemon is for white hot chicks in tight yoga pants. I'm tired of seeing the gays, right? That's what they're getting at here. That is what they're trying to suggest Lululemon's billionaire founder was talking about when it's not what he was talking about. But when you take that cock and bull headline and then you take a quote that he says much later in response to a totally different thing, then you take that quote and you put it next to it, you get this. Lululemon's billionaire founder slams the company's diversity and inclusion efforts. Quoting now, you've got to be clear that you don't want certain customers coming in. Boy, that sounds bad. Sounds bad until you actually read the quote, until you actually see the interview, which is what we're going to do now. Because this guy, look, far be it from me to defend billionaires. I think you guys know that's not my game. I don't like billionaires. But I also don't like deceptive journalism. And I don't like gin-mucking journalism. I don't like bullshit. Is this guy probably a cocksmoke? Absolutely. But is he responsible for what it appears he's being accused of, which is saying that he doesn't like them diversity hire people and coming into my Lululemon. No, that is not what he's talking about. It's not even remotely what he's talking about. It's going to be clear here. But go ahead, get yourself triggered. All you lefties, get yourself triggered and start doing protests out in front of Lululemon because their owners are racist. One, he's not their owner anymore. He has nothing to do with the company. Two, not a racist, at least not by what you're reacting to. He's not intolerant, not by what you're reacting to, not in the way you think intolerant. He's talking about a different kind of intolerance, and we'll get to that. While many CEOs are shouting about their increased efforts to ramp up diversity across their business, one founder is promoting the exact opposite. Lululemon billionaire founder Chip Wilson insists that exclusivity trumps inclusivity while blasting the posh leggings company that he stepped down from 10 years ago. Here's what he says about Lululemon, his company that he founded. They're trying to be like the Gap, everything to everybody. Wilson, who has an estimated net worth of $8.7 billion, said in an interview with Forbes magazine. And I think the definition of a brand is that you're not everything to everybody. You've got to be clear that you don't want certain customers coming in. All right, that's what he said. He's not talking about certain customers based on looks or sexual orientation or the things that diversity is most commonly attributed to. He is talking about brand exclusivity. He is pushing back on the idea that his brand, Lululemon, which was a boutique and prestige brand when he had it, it wasn't for everybody. It was for people who could afford to spend $150 on leggings for yoga class. That's what it was. That's what he wanted. He's saying they're trying to be the Gap. He's talking about the company is trying to become as ubiquitous as the Gap or something else that isn't special. He is lamenting the loss of the specialness, the smallness of what the company once was. He's not talking at all about people's skin color or their economic power or whatever. He is simply talking about the brand Lululemon, and he is lamenting how it's trying to be like the Gap, something for everyone. When what he is saying, and if you want to be angry about it, what I think he's saying is Lululemon was designed to get all the hot rich chicks. This was a store built and designed exclusively for trophy wives. And now we've got all kinds of people who don't appreciate the brand, we're complaining about 100, we're lowering the prices on things. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about the shift in what the brand is today as opposed to what it was when he first founded the company. He's not talking about skin color. He's not talking about sexual orientation. He's not talking about any of those other things. He's talking about the brand perception, that it is no longer special. It is no longer hard to find a Lululemon. I remember 10, 15 years ago, Lululemons were hard to find. I know this because remember I told you about my wife. She worked for the company or my ex-wife, my son's mom. She had worked for the company doing those things. So I knew that there was only like one in the area. And then you had to drive like down to Austin that's what he was talking about. Since then, they're everywhere. They're in every mall. They're in strip malls. They're next to the Gap and the Old Navy. That's what he's lamenting. Not that they have a corporate idea or that they subscribe to the diversity idea. He didn't care about that. That's not what he's talking about. Anyway, he's in trouble, and he's not going to apologize. You know why? Because he's got $8.7 billion. He's not involved in the company anymore. That is the irony of it. What he's lamenting has actually led to him making $4 billion in the last 5 years. The rapid expansion, the ubiquitous expansion of the Lululemon name has added $4 billion to his pocket. And he's going, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like that they're everywhere. All right, moving on. Let's talk about the coaches. NFL coaches, a bunch of them are going to be fired. Okay, so let's see. Who are we looking at here? Trades, too. We're talking about a situation now in the NFL where for the first time ever, they are speculating that there could be two head coaches traded. the rarest of things. Head coaches I can't remember the last time a head coach got traded. I mean, I always knew it was a thing, but it's not a thing that happens. So Bill Belichick, there is some talk that Bill Belichick, who has one more year left on his deal there with the Patriots and Robert Kraft, that Bill Belichick might be somebody that Robert Kraft will be interested in trading for. Mike Vrabel is the name that keeps coming up. That you could see could we see a trade, like a quarterback, like a head coaching trade? Mike Vrabel is, of course, the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. Mike Vrabel is also a legendary New England Patriot from his playing days. So, that makes sense, but whatever. The other one is rumors about Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh, who is still under contract there with the Rooney family in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, it might be time for him to move on from the Steel City. And it's not like they're just going to fire him, because Mike Tomlin would be an in-demand coach. So there is now talk this morning out of Pittsburgh that could we actually trade Mike Tomlin? You want to hear something crazy? The Pittsburgh Steelers, man. Did you want to talk about a good organization? Don't even look. I'm a Bear fan and a Cowboy fan. These are not great organizations. These are ridiculous organizations. Pittsburgh Steelers are a great organization. And you know what the most telling thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers as an organization, how strong they are? Since 1969. Since 1969, the Pittsburgh Steelers have only had 3 head coaches. Oh my God. 54 years. 54 years. They've only had 3 head coaches. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, and Mike Tomlin. That's crazy. Anyway, that's interesting. So a whole bunch of coaches. We could see some coaching trades. How about this one? Tyreek Hill is trending. Tyreek Hill's Miami mansion burned down. Well, it didn't burn down, but he was at practice yesterday. And here, we'll pull this up. We got pictures of it because it's always fun to see how these dudes live. He was at Miami Dolphins practice, Tyreek Hill, and he got called away because his house was on fire. And, they sent out the local media helicopters. So we got some cool ass media helicopter video of Tyreek Hill, the Miami Dolphin wideout, one of the most exciting players in the NFL. His house is on fire. All right, we'll check it out. Oh, we need to stop sharing that one. Forgot that we were stuck on that. I should probably look at the chat room. That would have worked. All right, here we go. Tyreek Hill's house is on fire. Decline. I don't want to join. Come on, get me out of here. Make it bigger. Does that work? Yeah, that kind of worked. All right. All right, so here we go. Here is footage from Tyreek. Do we have any sound? Oh, yeah. All right. Harder than the upstairs. They leave the game room, reached the roof in seconds. There were pictures of firemen cutting holes in the giant roof there. Quite the compound, I'll tell you. Sprawling. Although not a lot of room, not a lot of backyard, but the actual structure itself is sprawling. Look at this thing. See there, it is pouring out of, that's the media room apparently. There's Tyreek. He's got his walking boot on. Don't know if he's going to be ready for Monday night against Buffalo. God, that's got to suck. He just got married last month. So this is he and his new wife's house. I don't know if this is an Andre Rison, Lisa Left Eye Lopez situation. I don't know if you remember that. Lisa Left Eye Lopez heard that Andre Rison, wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons, was cheating on her. So she took all of his gym shoes. She put them in the bathtub of the mansion they shared there in Atlanta, and she lit them on fire. She didn't know that was going to burn the entire mansion down. So yes, Lisa Left Eye. I don't know if that's the case. This may have just been an innocent case of fire breaking out. But Tyreek Hill is the walking. That's terrible. Yeah, that's everybody's. I don't know if they got kids or anything. I know they just got married last month, but in 2024, that doesn't mean they don't have like a 5 and a 6-year-old. So I don't know if that's the deal. But when your home catches on fire, boy, that is talk about feeling completely disrupted. That's the other thing about Tyreek Hill, though. Tyreek Hill, I want to tell you, let me give you this on Tyreek Hill, since I always think about this. Tyreek Hill is another one of these examples of why You are a fool if you ever think that people know how to watch football better than you. The so-called experts, especially around the draft, these draft experts. I cannot stand draft experts. I can't stand the Mike Mayock's. I can't stand who's the guy? Who's the guy with the hair? I hate that guy. See, I don't even commit their names to memory because they're so insignificant to me in this whole, they're all out of town stupid. And here's the problem with the draft guys. Zero accountability. There is zero accountability for what they claim in the weeks and months leading up to an NFL draft about this can't miss generational. There is zero accountability. They fail all the time. Give you an example. Tyreek Hill's probably the most deadly offensive weapon in football and has been for quite some time. Tyreek Hill was taken in the 5th round. Tyreek Hill was like the 30th wide receiver taken in his draft because the experts who remember watch football better than you saw Tyreek Hill and went, nah, you know who's better than him? J-Bo Roberts out of Alabama, who was taken with the 5th overall. You ever heard of him? Nah, because he failed, because he's nothing, because the first 10 receivers taken in that draft turned out to be nobodies, absolutely nobodies, till you get all the way down there into the 5th round. And then you see Tyreek Hill. His name is highlighted. Why? Because he's an all-pro. Because he's actually done some shit. 5th round. Wander Franco. Let's do some more sports stories. Wander Franco, we talked about him a couple of months back when this story first broke. I've been following Wander Franco for years. Why? Because I was paying attention to a young developing ball player in the minor leagues by the name of Luis Robert. And at the same time I'm studying Luis Robert, I see this young kid from the Dominican, Wander Franco, coming up here. My guy, Luis Robert, was the number 1 player in all of minor league baseball, and Wander Franco was 4. So I paid attention to him. The next year, Wander Franco was 1. Wander Franco was number 1, the number 1 ranked minor league prospect in all of Major League Baseball. And let me tell you something. That's unlike the football draft. When you rise to the position of number 1 overall prospect in minor league baseball, you are pretty much can't miss, because that's a dude who's just been hitting 400 and triple and double A. And they're like, yeah, he's ready. He's a can't miss. Wander Franco was can't miss. Wander Franco, shortstop for the Rays. Wander Franco, generational. Could be generational. Absolutely. Absolutely at that level of talent. And he screwed it all up because he's dating a 14-year-old or started a relationship with a 14-year-old. I'm not sure. We learned about this. He's 22. Just let's put everything in the proper frame. He's 22 years old. She's 14. They were linked together over the summer. Major League Baseball back in August indefinitely suspended Wander Franco from the Rays, which, God, I mean, if you're a baseball fan, you're like, well, there's a hole in our infield. I mean, he was supposed to be there for 10 years. He's never going to play Major League Baseball again. I don't believe Wander Franco will ever play Major League Baseball again. He was suspended back in August by baseball because there was a story, I believe it was in the Miami Herald, story out of Miami that showed Instagram pictures of a 14-year-old girl who was claiming to be Wander Franco's girlfriend. And then there was an investigation, and it turned out there was. And recently, Wander Franco, a couple weeks ago, Wander Franco was supposed to be interviewed by police in the Dominican Republic regarding this case. Wander Franco blew that meeting off. So for a couple of days, there were all the stories that Wander Franco's in the wind. He's a $186 million contract with baseball, which I think he got like 50 of it guaranteed up front. So he's got money. He's 22 years old. He's got money, and he's starting them now. He's not shown up for police interviews regarding a very serious situation that could affect his entire career. He's not showing up for it. He's just blowing it off. So we all thought he was in the wind. He's not. He's been arrested. His shit is over. It turned out that he had paid. Actually, I've seen 2 reports here. One says up to $50,000. The other says up to $250,000. But he has apparently been paying the mother of this 14-year-old girl for months and months to keep quiet about all this. God damn, keep it in your pants. I mean, what? First of all, he's 22 years old. He's handsome. He's a handsome guy. Like, first of all, he's young, he's athletic, he's yoked, he's popular, everybody loves him. And on top of that, he's a handsome guy. So there is no excuse why he can't have an age-appropriate girlfriend. Why? And don't give me this, it's from the Dominican, they're different. Well, if they're different, then they can't participate in our version of society. Because those are different things that we do not cotton to. Don't tell me that, well, it's not a problem dating a 12-year-old in the Dominican. Don't tell me that shit. And that's a lot of what I read on Ray's Twitter back when this story first started. I was like, oh, this will be a good time to jump onto Ray's Twitter and see what's going on there. We always do that. Well, it's just he's culturally different. Well, I think the onus is on the team that pays him $186 million to make sure that before they sign that check to him, that he's culturally up to speed on what is and what isn't considered absolutely reprehensible behavior here in America. Ray's shortstop, here's the story. Ray's shortstop, Wander Franco, arrested amid allegations of relationship with a minor. It says here, Santo Domingo. Tampa Rays shortstop Wander Franco was arrested Monday in the Dominican after being interviewed by prosecutors investigating him for a relationship with a minor. Franco appeared before prosecutors while accompanied by two lawyers days after not showing up for a meeting with prosecutor Olga Neira. See, this is what I was telling you about why everybody thought he was in the wind. Everybody thought that he got his passport and he is gone. Because you can do that. 22 years old, you can go into the wind with like 50 million cash. It's not bad. Franco appeared before prosecutors while accompanied by two lawyers days after not showing up. The person was not authorized to discuss the case. Okay, where are the charges? Authorities have released little information about the case because it involves a minor. Franco must be brought before a judge within 24 hours. This is according to Dominican law. The AP was not able to reach Franco's attorney in the Dominican. The Dominican Republic's prosecutor's office said on August the 14th that Franco was under investigation because of postings on his social media channels suggesting that he'd had a relationship with a minor. The AP has not been able to verify those reported posts. Franco was placed on administrative leave by Major League Baseball in August under its joint domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse policy. He was paid and received service time while on administrative leave. There is no timetable for a conclusion of MLB's investigation and whether the result of the probe might lead to more discipline by MLB. Well, look, I think MLB is pretty much done with him. I think the story that was presented in the very beginning was so shocking that they immediately went, well, based on the Miami Herald investigation, well, Major League Baseball said, okay, administrative leave, whatever. This looks bad. We don't know what it is. We're going to do the right thing from jump. You're gone. I don't think he's coming back. How about this one? Dinner time. What time do you eat dinner? Your grandparents were onto something with those early bird dinners. The best time to eat dinner is 4 hours before bedtime. So there's this new study. There's not when we should eat dinner and why we should eat dinner at this particular time. When do you guys eat dinner? I eat dinner real early. I eat dinner real early and then I don't go. I eat dinner like 8 hours before I go to bed, I think. Let's see here. What does it say? Peak dinner time in America. This is why I asked you, what time do you eat dinner? Peak dinner time in America is 6:19 p.m. 6:19, but it varies from a little bit after 5 to after 8 p.m. depending on the part of the country. This according to a statistician who analyzed time use data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The most important factor in the dinner time calculus is melatonin, the hormone that signals it's time to sleep. Melatonin, which begins to rise about 3 hours before we go to bed, also tells the pancreas to cut back on insulin production. If we have a sugar spike after eating late in the evening, our body has a harder time regulating the sugar. Okay, so there you go. So don't eat late. There you go. Big study. Big study about how we eat. I guess the big study determined what? That we're eating at the right time? Because 6:19, that seems pretty right. That seems normal. All right, let's see here. What else do we have? We're running out of stuff, guys. We're just about out of time. And why not? We've hit the 2-hour mark. I'm happy about that. All right, let me see if there's anything else. Anything else that we can mention on this here show today? What's the weather like outside? Oh, you know what I want to do? I want to go back and I want to find that Perry, Iowa story from earlier today. Come on. Man, I didn't think I was going to have this much energy today. You know, what with me be... here's an interesting one. We can get it. Oh, never mind. We got a couple more stories here. All right, we're going to keep rolling. All right. What? This was an interesting story. I found this. So, I'm a very proud I consider myself a Gen expert. I'm a very proud member of the generation known as X. And I found this study here today, which is telling us about the cities where Gen Xers are moving. We know about boomers. We know about boomers who are moving to Florida and Arizona and all that stuff. They've got better air quality and that whole thing. And then we know about millennials. The millennials are all leaving California for Texas and all that. What about Gen X? Everybody forgets about us. Gen X has also been migrating across the country. And now there's a list here of the top places that Generation X are moving. I feel personally attacked looking at the picture of the two people they have to embody Generation X. And my question would be, why did they cast two old people? They've got two old people wearing concert t-shirts that look like your cool grandma. That is not. When did Gen X become the cool grandma and grandpa? I don't like that. As Gen Xers head into middle age, that's very generous. I think that we are already in middle age, but I really appreciate the generosity in that headline. As Gen Xers head into middle age, they are moving to some surprising locales. As Gen X prepares to send kids to college and is closer to their retirement, this age group has had time to see compound interest grow their investments while advancing their careers. This means an individual Gen Xer may have an outsized impact on local economies, more so than their younger cohorts and older. Yeah, because see, we're like, Gen X is like, we got the money, not me, but Gen X is like got the money, they got their careers, they've done all that stuff, and they're still active. We're a very active generation. We've never really, become couch potatoes. We get out, we jog, we do that stuff. So we're still out and we're spending. Whereas, the older people, the boomers, they move to Arizona and they just sit on their front porch. They don't go out dancing. Not that Gen X does, but you know what I mean? We're more likely to still go to concerts. And then millennials, they all have families. They have young kids and they're paying for school and they're saving for this and they got a vacation they're going to. So, they don't really control. It's Gen X. We're the ones now moving the needle economically in these regions that we suddenly find ourselves in. So let's see what the number one places are. All right, here we go. The list. Okay, got to hit continue reading. Here are the cities and places in America that Gen X is moving to most frequently. Well, here you go. No surprise here. Surprise, Arizona. Let's see here. Yeah, it looks like in the last year, like 4,000 Gen Xers moved to Surprise, Arizona. So, all right. Number 2, Bend, Oregon. I don't know anything about Bend, Oregon. Oregon seems very cool, though. I would totally live in Oregon. Oregon looks nice. Bears and Bigfoots might be a problem, but I think with the proper fencing, we could get over that. Number 3, where Gen Xers are moving to, city Gen Xers are moving to most, Scottsdale, Arizona. I should have started from like 10 and gone to 1, but instead I started at 1. We got Orlando, Florida. We got Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We got St. George, Utah. We got Jackson, Mississippi. Number 8, Wichita Falls, Texas. Wichita Falls, Texas has seen an increase, 2,000 Gen Xers. They're 10.5% of the population, the total population Gen Xers in Wichita Falls. That is up 2.4% over previous years. What else do we have? Hialeah, Florida, Vacaville, California, Henderson, Nevada, Colorado Springs, Colorado, and number 14, Arlington, Virginia. Oh, and Billings, Montana, 15. There you go. That's where us Gen Xers are going. All right. Last story of the day here. Feel like I got to mention this one. Speaking of Gen Xers, one of the Gen Xer bands has fallen off the table, folks. It is official. Rage Against the Machine has broken up. That's right. They just went into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year, and they announced some big tour. We're going to do our Rock and Roll Hall of Fame tour. touring in the name of, they were going to do a whole thing, and then that's canceled, and that's not happening. And Rage Against the Machine, they put out announcements. This comes from 6 hours ago. Rage Against the Machine breaks up, cancels abruptly planned tour. Somebody got it. Is this Zach and Tom? Did Zach and Tom get sideways? Rage Against the Machine, which was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in November, has broken up and canceled its upcoming concert tour. So they probably hadn't seen each other in years, got together for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Everybody was being super nice to them. It was all hugs and best wishes. They got together and they're like, man, we should go on tour. And then here we are like 3 months later. They're like, yeah, I don't like these guys. We don't like each other. We don't want to be on tour. That was fun. That was one night, but Rage Against the Machine, which was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in November, has broken up and canceled its upcoming tour. Drummer Brad Wilk has made the announcement on Instagram Wednesday. He said, I want to let you know that Rage Against the Machine, Tim, Zach, Tom, and I will not be touring or playing live again. I'm sorry for those of you who have been waiting for this to happen. I really wish it were happening. No reason was given for the breakup of the band, which was formed in 1991 and consists of Tom Morello, Tim Comerford, Zach De La Rocca, and Brad Wilkes. Famous for songs Sleep Now in the Fire, Know Your Enemy, and Killing in the Name of. And the band earned 2 Grammy Awards for its unique blend of metal, punk, rock, funk, and hip-hop. The band previously took breaks for several years at a time, starting in the year 2000 and again in 2011. Well, they're taking another break. So here's the full message on Instagram from Brad Wilk, the drummer. It says, I know a lot of people are waiting for us to announce new tour dates for all the canceled Rage Against the Machine shows. I don't want to string people or myself along any further. So while there has been some communication that this may be happening in the future, I want to let you know that Rage Against the Machine, meaning Tim, Zach, Tom, and I, will not be touring or playing live again. I'm sorry for those of you who have been waiting for this to happen. I really wish it was. All right. So I just noticed something about this. This is the drummer. This is the drummer who is saying and going out of his way to say what lineup will never tour again. Tim, Zach, Tom, and I will not be touring or playing live again. I would be more concerned if this was coming from Tom or Zach. Because if I'm going to see Rage Against the Machine, I need Zach De La Rocca and I need Tom Morello. Comerford, okay, whatever. Fine. But really, it's those two guys. That's who I'm going to see. The drummer quitting the band doesn't necessarily mean, to me anyway, that the band is broken up. It just means they'll get another drummer. Maybe the drummer was the problem. I don't know. I'll tell you who I think is the problem. That Tim Comerford guy. Do you remember when he totally disrupted the MTV Awards? It was the weirdest thing. It was on live TV. It was the MTV, the MTV Awards used to be a big thing. It was probably like 1997 or 1996 or something like that. I don't know. But he ran up on stage and then scaled this giant thing, this like structure that was built on the stage as a stage effect, like a cool ass background, like a giant MTV Moon Man or something. He ran up on stage and he climbed up this thing. It's like and he wouldn't come down. And they had to stop this. Well, they didn't stop they stopped the show, but it was all being aired. And they had security up on stage. It was the weirdest thing. I'm like, what is that? What is he doing? Anyway, it's the most memorable thing that Tim Comerford of Rage Against the Machine has ever done, if you ask me. All right, what else do we have here? That's it, folks. We are done. We are out. We're out of stuff. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. We'll be back tomorrow. Again, if you're so inclined, you want to help tip the show. As of this show, when we started today, we needed to make I think we were down to 215 or something like that by end of show tomorrow. Anything you can do to keep the show on the air, Yep, that would be the time. If not, love you anyway, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon. Also, a very hearty and happy hello, and thank you, very big thank you, to Carlos, who was today's executive producer. Thank you so much, Carlos. As we say every day, person who tips the largest the day before gets to be the executive producer for the next day. All right. Now I got a whole day of I got to go to the. Okay, so here's what I got to do now. I got to go to CVS because I got to get a whole bunch of like. Let's be honest. I'll probably check CVS, but I'm going to Family Dollar because there's no way that I'm going to buy a whole bunch of pills at like CVS pricing when the Family Dollar can give me the same vitamin C pills for like, $1 for 100. Sure, they're 80% sawdust. I don't care. I'm still thinking that I'm spending $1 when at the CVS, that same thing will be like $6. So no. So I gotta do that. I gotta do some running around. We gotta get all that stuff. Like I said, the boy and me, we're here. Everybody's sick. So the boy and I are gonna stick around here and hang out and I don't know. Probably watch movies. We've been my voice sounds worse now, doesn't it? I'm hearing it in my headphones and I'm like, man, it's sounding actually worse. I apologize. All right, we got to go. I love you guys. You're the best. We'll see you back here tomorrow at noon. I hope that you've been brought up to speed on all the things you need to know about. If not, I have failed. And now it's time for me to feel shame.